Hey everybody, this is video one, review of civil-military relations. So, at its inception, the study of civil-military relations considers how best to keep Caesar on one side of the Rubicon, that is, how to arm one sector of your society so well that it can effectively protect itself and protect its country, while simultaneously ensuring that it doesn't point its own weapons toward its own society. In effect, what Caesar did when he crossed the Rubicon. So, since its inception, America has maintained a pretty healthy suspicion of the military. Prior to the Cold War, peacetime armies were kept relatively small, and they only were swelled in times of war, after which they'd largely be deactivated, decimated, if you will. America's unique geography provided a unique situation that ensured that external threats were pretty much negligible. So, America, lacking an external threat, had no real need of a large standing army, which might otherwise have represented an internal threat. That is, until the Cold War. During the Cold War, a threat posed by the Soviet Union necessitated a large standing army even after the end of World War II, and that led to renewed fears of an overly powerful military in the United States. So, civil-military relations theory was developed to a large extent as a response to this potential threat. In 1957, Samuel Huntington published his seminal The Soldier and the State, which was to become the foundational model of civil-military relations theory, against which all subsequent theories have been compared. Huntington's model, which argues that granting the military autonomy and keeping it separate from the politics of the civilian world, enables the military to develop its own culture of professionalism, a culture which values civilian control as a basic tenet of faith. So in 1960, Morris Janowitz published The Professional Soldier, which is the archetypal counter to Huntington's viewpoint. Instead of more autonomy, Janowitz posited, the military should be controlled by the liberalizing influence of society at large. So, over half a century later, most of our current literature on civil-military relations still falls into one of these two camps. Huntington's model is termed institutionalism, or objective control, or the normal theory, or the professional supremacy view, also called the military supremacy view. Janowitz's model is known as convergence theory, also subjective control, the unequal dialogue, or the civilian supremacy view. So, in the post-Cold War world, with the threat of the military coup no longer relevant, or hadn't really come to pass, and the threat of a conventional threat from the military basically inconceivable, civil-military relations literature has at times come to resemble a discussion in need of a purpose. Increasingly elegant models and polished narratives have been trotted out, and to a large degree, they answer the same two questions over and over again, which is, whose fault is it that we lost Vietnam? And who gets to be in charge now, the military or the civilians? So, on the professional supremacy side of the debate, we have H.R. McMaster's dereliction of duty, which is often viewed as representing the quote-unquote blame the civilians extreme of the professional supremacy school. It's been faulted by civilian supremacists for discouraging self-reflection and accountability within members of the military. On the other side of the debate is Eliot Cohen's Supreme Command, which uses 4 case studies to argue that the intrusive civilian control is actually the most effective way of assuring a victorious outcome. Now, while the book is unquestionably well written and convincing, when you have bureaucrats from the DoD basing their leadership styles on his 4 case studies, which looked at Clemenceau, Lincoln, Churchill, and David Ben-Gurion, it kind of is maybe a little bit of hubris there to think that you can compare yourself to one of those great leaders. Now, this is all to say that generally, civil-military relations research has somewhat become, you might say, a huddle where the team is quarreling over whose fault it is the other team scored a touchdown and arguing over who gets to play quarterback. And my contention is that we need to let it evolve into a tool that helps us not only figure out whose fault it was that the other team scored, but figure out how to get that touchdown back.